Right, so today's Unvarnished Conversation, we're discussing a blog post, The Right to Say No, the bedrock of healthy boards, businesses, and leadership development. So, mainly, the article discusses how the right to say no underpins healthy organizations and fuels leadership growth. There are so many positive things which people can read in the article. However, the question is quite the opposite.
Yeah.
What bad
Okay.
things, what bad things happen when people are scared to say no?
Well, a lot of bad things can happen when you're scared to say no, because I can compare it to watching a train crash in slow motion because you don't want to tell the driver you're heading towards a cliff. And yourself and the passengers are going to go over that cliff because there's nothing there. So the ability to say no requires some really important foundations. The first foundation is a leader with a healthy psyche, a healthy ego, someone who is able to accept disagreement and disagreement from someone they perceive as a subordinate or less important or less significant. So that's one part. Now, the other really important thing to understand in the ability to say no is the context. What is the context? What is the danger? What is the risk of saying no to that leader if that leader is backed by a group who supports him or her and expects them to behave in a certain way?
Hmm.
Is that leader actually independent himself or herself? And that's another big situation. So the leader's well-being, mental, physical, emotional well-being, the context in which that leader is operating as a leader, are they truly an independent leader, or is their leadership dependent on a support group who expect certain things from them? And third, you have the people who are their constituents, their followers, their supporters. How do those people perceive the situation and read the situation? Is the relationship between the leader and the followers one where people feel secure, where history tells them that it's safe to say no because there won't be any consequences?
Hmm.
Just imagine what it's like, the proverbial my way or the highway reaction, because it's a reaction to perceived questioning of their authority or leadership position. If people don't feel secure and safe because of history and because of experience, to say no, they won't. They will watch the slow motion train crash or get out of the way. So when we talk about psychological safety, it's not just a simple statement. It's, do we feel secure enough in our relationship? Do we understand the context well enough? And do we have an assessment of the risk that gives us the confidence to express ourselves? Because we know and we have seen from past evidence that it's safe to say
Hmm.
no and to have an intelligent discussion about no. It doesn't mean that we're right. It means that we can disagree, and that disagreement can lead to an intelligent exchange, an investigation of the facts, of the situation, of the consequences, and we can come to a mutual understanding where that no could lead to innovation, or it could lead to a change of perception, or it could lead to a wider understanding, because now I have access to information I didn't have before. So I realize I should have said yes and not no. Or the person to whom I said no recognizes that I have valuable information to share, and the no becomes an opening to a new understanding and a better solution. So, like everything, there is no simple black and white answer.
I mean, do these organizations with those type of leaders who are so insecure that they can't allow to have a psychologically safe environment for their people to say no, do they survive? Do they succeed? Do they sustain their performance and profitability? I mean, what's the
Yes,
fate of these companies?
many of them survive because, Rima, we need to understand that the public
Mm,
is not necessarily that informed. The public doesn't scrutinize what's happening. The public
mm,
very often doesn't have access to real information. And, we have seen many situations where what looks so wonderful and glorious on the outside is not what's on the inside.
right.
That picture of a beautiful red apple,
Mm,
which is completely rotten inside. This is what has led to the downfall of many large, fantastic corporations that had a long and blazing history of success and then suddenly collapsed because the rot got to the outside and the red, shiny skin of the apple was pierced and broken, and people saw what was inside. So, yes, if you want to have a healthy environment where people can disagree and we can talk to each other openly and transparently, that's a very healthy thing to have. It doesn't necessarily have to be what the public sees, but it can be how we interact internally. Even within a family, when you can't be honest with your partner, with your children, the rot sets in. But it may take time for it to become exposed.